Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the clip. Still 5 on the floor. Still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court. Still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball. Or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us. Never catch us snoring. Live from Miami. Report in the heat with 5 reasons sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah. Wayne County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor Live. I'm your host, Greg Sylvander. I'm fumbling the intro just as bad as the Heat fumbled tonight's game. Tonight's floor plan with me, Major Passons. We are going to unpack what was a pretty dreadful game that the Heat clearly took this opponent too lightly. They thought this game was in the bag, considering the high they were coming off of after the Andrew Wiggins buzzer beater. They came out and just basically laid an egg. We're going to get into the reasons why and all of that fun stuff or not so fun stuff shortly. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. You got to go here for the most Heat coverage anywhere. We're talking Miami Heat basketball 24/7 here. There's all kinds of channels to talk, whether it be looking ahead to the trade transaction season, draft. We have a main thing chat where we talk about just all things Miami Heat. We have all of the hosts of 5 on the Floor dropping updates. $2.99 a month. Join us. You won't want to leave once you get there. Check it out. Off the Floor. Link is in the description of this episode. All right. That public service announcement is out of the way. So let's get into the ugly of this. We're going to actually just dive major right into the first segment. And we're going to use the player of the night to talk about what went wrong for a couple really key guys on the Heat bench specifically. Let's get to it.
And now it's time for the A-Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the Heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
So it's opposite day here on 5 on the Floor, everyone, because the player of the game is not going to be the guy who played best for Miami. Because truthfully, I'm not going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers' best player because they were playing a lot of their bench guys, young players, and a couple G Leaguers. But Major, Jaime Jaquez had probably his worst game of the season in 29 minutes, 4-15 from the field. He just couldn't get in his normal offensive rhythm. Andrew Wiggins, 5 turnovers. Jovic, another 4 turnovers. I just thought it was a weird game. We're 1 of 6 shooting from him. But let's talk about Jaquez first. I noticed that they were doubling him. I mean, I guess that's high praise, but also they were putting bigger players on him. What do you think Jaquez? How do you think Jaquez is going to respond? Because there was a clear adjustment made today to the way they defended him versus the game that we saw the other night. How does Jaquez counter this new look that Cleveland threw at him tonight?
I think he's got to counter it with a completely different approach. When you're playing a team, and they put a center on you, that's especially like Allen is athletic enough to move. It's not like they're putting someone that can't move at all, can't jump. He's a good rim protector. So Jaquez has done really well at like attacking people, and it's a lot harder when the guy has, it feels like a foot on you, right? Especially when you add in the wingspan, that gets a lot harder. Then I'll say it didn't work out in his favor. It seemed like a lot of the players weren't as active, and they're taking people for granted. It seemed like, we're usually on the other side of this. In past years, the Heat have been pretty injured, and we've always said we had enough, and then we're that team that somehow wins some games. Like, think back to Kyle Guy whenever he dropped like 20 plus or whatever it was. That was always us. So we Heat fans, if anyone, should know that this can happen. It's the common phrase, they get paid too, right? So they get paid. They're professional basketball players. You can't give them that confidence. And the Heat kept giving them that confidence, and it seemed by a lack of movement. And I don't think that helped Jaquez either, because then people were just standing around. It's easier to play defense. So not only is he put in a bad matchup with, I think that worked really well with putting the center on him, but then he's not getting in transition, because it seemed like I wouldn't be surprised to see if like the pace numbers were wildly down. It felt like it was really far down. And they were a lot more walking, not as much pushing. It just felt like a weird game. So yes, I think they did find something with putting the size on Jaquez. But I think also the Heat didn't do themselves any favors by not moving around, not helping, not cutting as much as you're supposed to. And then, to be honest, a lot of shots like trickled off. So if some of those
really true
from
a lot of guys,
it might feel a little bit different. So I think there's a combination of a lot of stuff, but to your point, I do think that they found something to counter it. I think he's got to be a little bit smarter. He's been really smart this year, but and what he did, I think maybe it's a little bit of panic, or like thinking we should be beating this guy. So you just keep being stubborn and doing the same thing. But not a great game overall. You certainly can't blame just one guy, but it is something to monitor if teams figure out they can put a big on him, especially if other people aren't doing their job. It's something to look into.
Yeah, because to this larger point about Jaquez, and he was so much compared to Jimmy early on, right? And that was the one thing teams would do to disrupt Jimmy Butler, was put us players with more size and length on him. And then tonight to see Jaquez get doubled was crazy. But the other thing that I think you're hitting on is that the offense was not clicking. It was not the ball movement. There was a lot of standing still, maybe 2 passes before there was a shot, or even 1 pass into a shot. And then there were a lot of deflating plays where you get a bunny and you miss it, or you're right at the basket and you're just not able to convert some of the field goals. Some really rough numbers from some of these guys. So it all kind of compounded together to just make for a real stinker for them. It's tough to shoot 40% from 3 and lose. They actually were only out rebounded by 5. And usually this Cleveland team could make that a relative problem. But we're going to use the next segment to talk about the other Achilles heel that Miami had tonight. Let's get to the mobile C-arm and staff play of the night.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
So I'll admit to everyone that I didn't really want to even do play of the day, because there is no play that I want to call out from this game for us to remember. But Major had a really great idea. Do y'all remember the possession where Cleveland scored, and I forgot who was inbounding the ball? Did you say it was Simone Fontecchio?
I think it was Fontecchio, yeah.
And he inbounded the ball. The Cavs immediately stole it. And did they convert a field goal and get fouled? Was that what happened?
To be honest, it happened a couple times, but the one
That's true.
I don't remember, but it was like complete lack of focus, just turnover.
And to that, 21 was the final tally of turnovers. I have to look on my phone again. Sorry, everyone. Now you see how this is done. 21-12 was the disparity in turnovers. You just can't win games like that. And so it was a mix of them being complacent. They basically didn't take this team seriously, and they just threw the ball away too much. It was a lot of passes that were not on point, like overthrowing passes and things like that. So it's just sloppy basketball. And I don't know that it's tough for me to say whether this is something we should be concerned about, because it's been an issue on the offensive glass night over night. And they've just found ways to work through that by playing really robust offensive basketball. Tonight, they didn't have that going. So, a lot of the other flaws were exposed, and it'll just be interesting to see how they respond to that going forward. Do you think that this is something we should be concerned with, or is this just one of those nights where it's hard to beat the same team in the NBA twice in a row, regardless if you're at home? So we shouldn't probably read too much into it. I probably am falling towards that being the scenario here. I'm usually the optimist. I haven't even checked the comments yet. We're going to get some of those up here in a minute. But Major, are you concerned by tonight's loss?
No, I'm not real concerned. I mean, yeah, they were missing guys, but if you want to use that excuse for the Cavs, we're missing guys too. I think it's just an NBA game. They get paid too. You have to come out. You have to put your foot down. And the Heat did that for a little bit. And then you could almost see that shift to where they got up, and then into the second quarter is when everything fell apart, because they were actually playing with a little bit of energy. I'll give them credit. They at least started the game moving around and doing some stuff, and it kind of fell off as they went. Trade Bam because he sucked tonight because he didn't play. That was making me laugh earlier, because that, I guarantee you there's countless people on Twitter that don't watch the games that are saying something like that. Because Heat Twitter is going to react to this, and this is perfect segue. People are going to overreact to this, right? Don't overreact. It's one game. We've now seen so many others where they have wildly outperformed expectations, like reasonable expectations. Do not overreact. If we see it for a couple of straight games, then yes, that's something to look into, but it's fine. They're playing the Cavs. They still had a couple solid players in there. You didn't get the best from your guys. It's a learning experience. They even have a younger team. So this is not sometimes uncommon with relying on young guys where they don't get up for every single game for the whole game.
That's a really good point, that they've leaned into the youth, and with that inherently comes some of these growing pains. I think that the basketball has been so much fun to watch. Even in some of the losses, we've been at a pace and at a scoring clip that just makes it fun. And so tonight, kind of feeling like a slugfest is not the best. But this comment comes in, and to our podcast listeners, we're live on YouTube now. So our YouTube audience, Welsh God says, bad loss, but it's a long season, happens to every team. More interested to see how they respond next game. I think that's about as astute of a evaluation of tonight as you can make. Let's just quickly, before we close here, because we're making this a quick show, because if the Heat aren't going to show up, we are going to wrap this as fast as possible, because we know that there's not much else to talk about. But they do have who's up next for them? Is it
the Knicks?
Is it all the way Monday? Jeez, hold on. Bear with me, folks. I should have known this before I bring up the segment. I mean, like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah. The Knicks on Friday. And
then so they're at New York Friday and then at home on Monday. I'm glad that I looked at the schedule. It's going to be really hard playing them 2 games in a row to get both. So I think we probably should expect at best a split. There was talk of, and I just saw a little bit of this on social media, so I haven't had the chance to verify what the injury could be, but that Jalen Brunson left tonight's game with some sort of injury. So his status is questionable. Obviously, I don't expect Bam nor Tyler to be playing in those games. How do you think they respond against New York? Do you think it's basically they just go back to the principles that they've been playing with, or is there anything that you think they could adjust heading up to New York?
No, I don't think there's really much to adjust other than mentality and attitude and playing your game for 48 minutes and not falling into what the defense wants you to do. Not saying that they're going to beat the Knicks, but I think you're going to get a much more Miami Heat showing, especially it is the Knicks. You know, it's like they don't really like the Knicks at all. So they're going to be up for that game.
They better be. And still, there was good things tonight in spurts early. I wanted to shout out Ben Tovia, who's on our playback channel and watches the games with us. He called out that in the third quarter, the Heat were actually up. I think he quoted the scores 92-78. It was a 14-point lead. And then they basically just fell apart. But there were even parts of this game early on where they looked pretty good, like they were going to have a handle on tonight. But ultimately, you find out that this is what the NBA is like. You better bring your best game to every arena, or some games you're going to lose like this. So the Heat lose their first one at home of the season. It was their only the third time in franchise history that they had started. I think it was 5-0 at home. So this is now their first loss. We'll see how they respond up in New York. We'll have you covered for that game. Ethan, Brady, Alex will be back for that. And then myself and Adele will have you covered for New York on Monday. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors. And if you play on Prize Picks, which is Daily Fantasy Simplified, use that code 5. Good night.